Welcome to our panel, Cultivating a Hill Country for All, Inspiring Stewardship, Conservation, and Communication. Thanks everyone for taking the time to participate in this discussion. I know it's some of y'all's first time interacting with the Hill Country Alliance, but just in case you don't know, and for the benefit of any of our future listeners, the Hill Country Alliance is a nonprofit organization working to raise public awareness and build community support around the need to preserve the natural resources and heritage of the Texas Hill Country. This year, we're actually celebrating 15 years of bringing folks together across the Hill Country, and given the state of 2020, it has definitely made that bringing folks together thing pretty unique. The Leadership Summit is actually our annual premier event, and I'm a bit disappointed that we couldn't be able to be together in person, but on the plus side, this is now a much more accessible event for folks who may not have been able to spend the whole day at an in-person event. Some of you may be included since we're just Zooming in. And I guess to kick us off, my name is Leah Cuddeback. I'm the Online Outreach and Communications Manager for Hill Country Alliance, and I actually work in a joint position with the Meadows Center for Water and the Environment at Texas State and HCA. So I actually put together this panel in the hope that we could get a little inspired and learn more about some of your awesome organizations. So for starters, I want to go through and have everybody have the chance to introduce themselves. If you could give us a quick overview of who you are and what your organization is. I'm going to start with you, April, if you want to tell us a little about yourself.
Great, thank you very much, Leah. My name is April Sansom, and I am the Executive Director of Sela Bamberger Ranch Preserve. And we are a 5,500 acre preserve in Blanco County. And I am very excited to be in my position. I've been in my position now for 3 months. So I'm still learning and still soaking everything up every day, and very excited to be here and very excited to share some of the story of Sela with you today.
Awesome. Next from April, we're gonna go to Amelia, DeVivo.
Hey y'all, my name's Amelia and I'm the Program Director with Austin Youth Riverwatch. I've been with AYRW for a little over 2 years, and our organization focuses on environmental science education, youth and leadership skills, and then outdoor recreation and adventure. So again, like April, I'm sure like y'all, I'm just super excited to be here and really pleased to share our story with some of the work we do.
All right, next up is Alex Bailey.
Hi, my name is Alex. I am the Senior Director for the HEB Foundation Outdoor School, one of many programs that the HEB Foundation hosts at our property way out in Leakey, Texas. But right now we currently partner with a cohort of schools in San Antonio, also a couple in West Texas, and all over the Hill Country in order to provide them a 3-day, 2-night overnight experience at our property. So we have a 2,000 acre property and very beautiful right at the headwaters of the Frio River. So really beautiful space. I'm excited to share more.
Sounds awesome. Next up, Justine Salisbury.
Hi all, good morning. My name's Justine. I'm with El Ranchito. I'm the Program Director at El Ranchito Camp and the Program Director of the Shield Ranch Foundation, sharing in common with y'all access to a beautiful piece of land in the Hill Country, the Shield Ranch, about 20 miles west of Austin, owned by the Shield heirs family, who have the land under a conservation easement and share with the community. Our most special program, El Ranchito, has been operating since 2007, and we bring kids from 4th grade to 12th grade out to the ranch for a residential camp experience every summer. I'm happy to be here and talk with y'all. Looking forward to hearing from everyone.
Awesome. Okay, last but not least, Josie Gutierrez, will you tell us a little about yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm Josie and I'm the Program Coordinator for Latino Outdoors. And this will be my 5th year, so I'm pretty excited about that. And we're basically just about inspiring, connecting, and engaging our Latino community. And as part of the outdoor experience and making that a comfortable space for us, we usually do events, at least one event a month. But of course, with COVID, we've kind of had to regroup and kind of figure out how to do that. But yeah, just engaging our community, which is first for us. So.
Wonderful. Well, you guys work for a bunch of awesome places. My next question is kind of, what is your organization's message, and who is your audience that you focus on the most? Who's your target audience, and what's that breakdown kind of look like? And we'll start off with April again.
Great. Thank you. Yes, that's a great question. Our target audience is focused on our two-part mission. So our mission is to teach ethical land stewardship through outreach and education. And the other part of our mission is to provide science-based environmental education to Central Texas school children. And so those are our two main audiences. And we have different programs geared to those different audiences. On a normal year, when we're not dealing with a global health crisis, we have over 2,000 school children visit us every year. We also offer workshops, land stewardship workshops, wildlife enhancement workshops, workshops focused on conservation and management of water, workshops focused on good land stewardship, on grass species. We have a whole workshop dedicated to grasses, native Texas grasses. And so our audience there is people who are trying to care for their own land in a sustainable and manner that's conducive to conservation here in the Texas Hill Country.
Excellent. Yeah, there's some overlap there with Hill Country Alliance, and we've been lucky to work with you on some of that adult education and outreach.
Absolutely, and I feel the same way about your organization, that we've been really lucky to partner with you, and I'm looking forward to expanding that partnership.
Awesome.
Because I think you guys do great work.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we're going back to Amelia. What's y'all's mission, and what is your target audience?
Mission, I think, if we were to really say like our mission and message is first and foremost that the outdoors is for everybody. We definitely look at things from a lens of equity, and, we really aspire to transform and inspire the young people that we work with through having access and adventure and opportunity in nature. So not only creating, of course, good outcomes for the environment, but for the young folks that we work with. In terms of our demographics, at least from 2019-2020, we work with primarily folks from underserved or underrepresented communities. So what that looked like for us this past year was about 80% of our river watchers do come from historically underrepresented communities or minority populations. 66% of our river watchers also qualify for free and reduced lunch. We work with young people aged about 14 to 24. We're working with some college students as well for one of our internship programs. And then in terms of numbers, I'd say about 200 plus students throughout the course of every single year. And then with 5 of those students also being from different colleges throughout the Austin area. So that's just kind of a snapshot of who we are and who we serve.
Awesome. Yeah, you've really got the kind of young adult group covered.
Totally.
All right, next we're going to go to Alex.
Yeah, so our mission for the HEB Foundation is to cultivate wholeness in school communities throughout Central Texas. So with that focus, we focus very heavily on social emotional learning, giving students the opportunity to cultivate a lot of their resiliency that they already bring to us, their confidence, their creativity, their curiosity at our property at the HEB Foundation camp. So we currently partner with, our big focus is Title I schools. We'll classify as Title I schools, and a high majority of our students are, I would identify as students of color, which is really, really great. And lastly, we serve students from a range of grades, starting at 5th grade all the way through 12th. So we get a pretty wide variety and diversity of schools coming out to our property, again, from San Antonio, Austin, Seguin, and even West Texas.
Nice. All right, Justine, who does El Ranchito serve and what's their message?
Yeah, our message with El Ranchito is to provide a fun and inspiring nature immersive experience to youth. We serve ages 4th grade all the way through 12th grade at our residential summer camp. And then we have our traveling expedition, which serves the 18 to 22-year-old range. We have opportunities for campers to return as junior counselors and counselors in training each year at El Ranchito. About 90 campers come and stay on site, and we have a staff of about 23 seasonal staff. Camp takes place over 4 weeks on Shield Ranch. So we set up tents, we set up everything on site, on the banks of Rocky Creek, swimming in the creeks, hiking on the land. Campers have an opportunity to have some high adventure rock climbing and horseback riding, as well as outdoor cooking. We also focus on social and emotional learning. We build a really strong community. Campers have been returning often from 4th grade all the way through 12th grade through the Conservation Corps years, where they do hands-on work experience. And then many return as staff, which is really exciting. And since we've been operating since 2007, we have staff serving in leadership roles at El Ranchito. And I think it's exciting to know that a lot of our campers come from the Central Texas area, many from Austin, and many come from urban Austin, and then some from suburban and even rural communities in Central Texas. And all of our 90% of our campers qualify for free and reduced lunch, and many identify as from families of color. And many come from families who use Spanish at home. So we have a lot of bilingual staff and songs at camp, and aspects to our community that are bilingual. One of my favorite things is when the Shield Heirs family were growing up on the ranch, they invited the Boy Scouts to come and stay, and realized this is an amazing resource that we want to share. And that inspired the work of El Ranchito. So it's been a long dream of the family to share the ranch, and this is kind of the first program, and we're building more.
That's awesome, yeah. And I have prior experience at El Ranchito, so you know it's close to my heart, but I think that's a pretty great way to explain the mission and the people that go there. Okay, last but not least, Josie, tell us about Latino Outdoors.
Yes, so for us, it's all about embracing our culture and family as part of the outdoor narrative. And we are there, at least I think the last time I counted, there's 23 regions. So we're everywhere. And so Texas, we're the only ones in Texas, San Antonio. And we have 17, I think, at least active regions. So everyone is a little bit different because we don't have a base. It's just kind of our city. So we do love to partner with other groups and organizations, and that's what's great about us, is that we can kind of join anybody. And for me, it's family here in San Antonio, Texas. So I have a granddaughter, and when I started with Latino Outdoors, she was only 4. So for me, it's kind of fun to kind of relive the outdoors through her, and that's been a big part of it for me. And I love the stories that are told when we're camping out and when we're out on adventures or on trails. I love hearing, I think the youngest I've had is that spent the night, I think camped out, was like an 8-month-old to like an 80-year-old. And so the stories and traditions and, you know, things that we talk about, I love hearing it from the youngest to the oldest, you know, to kind of pass on the knowledge, and it kind of awakens other stories, and they're told to their kids, and I remember this or I remember that. So for me here in San Antonio, I'm very big on family. Anybody who wants to come out, family is huge for me. So
That's wonderful. And it sounds like you cover just about every age range possible.
We do.
Which is excellent. So my next question is, I'm going to stay with you for a second, Josie. Since you are part of a national organization that is really focused on getting folks outdoors, and we know that Texas is increasingly becoming an urban state, according to the last census, so 2010, not 2020, because we don't have those results yet, approximately 85% of the total population of Texas lives within urban areas. And that's a lot higher than the national average. It's also something we run into a lot here in the Hill Country as urban areas expand. So I'm kind of wondering, as part of this national volunteer organization, how does volunteering with Latino Outdoors, how does that compare here in Texas versus other states? And what about the Texas chapter here in San Antonio of Latino Outdoors sets it apart from some of the other ones around the country?
I think for us here, we have so much diversity here in San Antonio that makes it so easy, especially in San Antonio. It's very, there's a lot of Latinos here, and there's so much culture here, and we're close to the borders. It makes it so easy for me. And when I first started, I had no clue what I was going to do. I just knew I was going to go have fun in the outdoors and bring my friends and family. And literally that's what I did. I reached out to my Latino family and my friends, and I was like, hey, let's start doing this. And I literally built it with my friends and family. And then from there, we just kind of grew. But I think it was so easy for me because San Antonio is, like I said, it's got a huge Hispanic population. And so it was easy for me. And I know other states don't have that. It's harder for them, I think, to reach a Latino community. So for me, I've had no issues at all with finding my group.
That is awesome. That's a good thing to not have a problem with.
I know. I never realized how easy it was. I was like, you know what? I actually probably have one of the easiest states and cities to kind of reach out to my community, especially with San Antonio. It's very much about family. And I was born in a Hispanic community. It's called the West Side, and West Side, South Side here in San Antonio are very primarily Latino communities. And I grew up in one of them, and I went to school in the other. So for me, it was easy. It was easy for me. It happened naturally, organically for me. So I know other states don't have that issue, or maybe somebody went to college at a state that they're volunteering in and they don't have that base to start with. For me, I was already a part of the city, and my mom's one of 13. My dad one of 7. So let me tell you, there's a large. With my family alone, we're good.
Yeah, you've got your own little volunteer chapter right there.
Yeah, we're good.
All right, so kind of shifting here, this year, I think we all know that the national conversation has really shifted to talk openly about historic gaps in outdoor representation and opportunities. Your organizations are all just a handful of some of the folks in the region who are working to improve those gaps. I think it's important to note that most of your organizations actually work with urban populations by bringing them to more rural spaces. There are a lot of challenges that occur for kids growing up in urban developed areas without access to open space or the natural environment. And this question could really go to any of you, but I'm going to start off with Alex, because I know in your past experience, before working with Outdoor School, you founded a group called Black Outside, and you still serve as the board president. So you have a lot of experience in the summer camp world. And I want to kind of open this question by asking, how have you seen nature immersion affect campers or students coming from primarily urban areas that you've worked with in the past? How have you seen that affect kids?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest piece that I think about is acknowledging that there's a lot of socialization, and I think like media telling a lot of, especially youth of color, particularly Black youth, that they don't like belong in the outdoors. A lot of times they're told like to be explicit, it's a white thing, right? So for our kids, when they see people that like look like them doing these things, it's like eye-opening. So they're like, wait, what? You did what? You backpacked in Idaho? So that's what the kids always tell me. But then the second thing is just like how once they get into the space, how nature just connects with every human being. And so we really see kids' eyes, we saw kids' eyes open up, right? And, that wonder and that curiosity, just because there's such a humanizing aspect of just spending time in nature that our kids can see. So I think the most beautiful part about my role, with Black Outside even, is that we're able to see kids foster that reconnection to the outdoors and the spaces that they thought they weren't included in, right? And see that, I can foster this even in my local neighborhood, in my park, even though it may not look like a state park. So that's a huge piece. And even with the outdoor school, seeing kids obviously go out to our property, our water's very, very blue. So for some of them, it's their first time looking at the water like, oh my gosh, like, it's so clear, it's so blue. I even said that the first time I went out there. So I think just seeing the amazement and the wonder that is nature, and having a chance to almost unplug, is just really, really powerful, especially for urban students when there's a lot, kind of like even just in general living in the city, right? There's just so much rolling around. There's always noise. There's always like 8 million things to do, and coming to a quiet place just to settle your thoughts has been really, really powerful for kids' mindfulness also.
Great answer. I'm thinking of a lot of kids I've worked with in the past at Shield Ranch. So I kind of want to open this question now to other folks. How have you seen this kind of new immersion in nature affect kids or adults that you've worked with in your programs?
For me, I guess I'll talk. For me, I love, I try to keep it simple when we do programming, because I know that a lot of our community, they've never gone, like camping, that's really the first time. So for me, the only thing I really try to get in is like a good hike or some s'mores, some of the basic stuff, making sure that they see the main thing that's at the park, whichever one we happen to see. But one of the neat things that I love is just the simple things. So I remember one night it was so cold, and I remember the next day, like the mom, there was a mom, and she was like, my son kept saying that this was the best night ever, that he was camping, it was like this, it wasn't like we were at a national park, but for him, just being in a tent outdoors and hearing the little critters walking around, and he just thought it was the best thing. And then hanging out with his mom, and then the s'mores, I love to do a night hike when we're with our group, just a little with the kids, like a little thing, we just kind of hike around the little campsite that we're at. But just the stars, sometimes you forget about these simple things. And so to me, I try to remember to bring back the basics, and then to see them and just reawaken that. And some of them, like, they've never really thought to look up at night, go outside at night and look up. And so just kind of hearing that and seeing that, I kind of try to remember, it's not about the big, it's about the little, and then the rest will come. So, yeah.
I like that. I like that. I like that sentiment a lot, Josie. And I'll just sort of echo that. Here at the Sela Bamberger Ranch Preserve, we talk about Sela moments. And the idea is that, particularly for school kids that live in an urban area, they don't always get the chance to come out and just sit and listen to the birds singing, or listen to the wind through the cypress trees on the shores of Madrone Lake. And so that's exactly what we really, really try to encourage kids to engage in, is having a Sela moment and just thinking about pausing and stopping and reflecting for a moment in nature. And we're really, we really encourage kids from all walks of life to have one of those moments that really helps them connect with nature. And we think that's so important, because those are the kids that are going to be environmental leaders in the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm connecting with everything you all are saying. And when I heard Alex mention just the wonder and curiosity and awe, I feel that the feeling of what that's like to share with youth. I every day at El Ranchito, or anytime we're out on Shield Ranch with a group, but particularly at camp, the community that's formed around enthusiasm for nature is so energetic and inspiring. The way that a camper will point out a leaf bug or stick bug or a staff going on a bird, or just the smallest thing to the large, something large and dramatic, and like a huge dramatic bird flying over and a really cool nature moment, to just something so small. The sharing in that together is something that I remember these moments with a particular camper or a particular hike or something, and they just stay with you forever. And it's, as a person who just really lives for those moments myself, it's so energizing to be in a community of people who want to share and want to notice and want to slow down and want to use all of their senses to take in nature.
That definitely, all of what you guys are saying resonates. I love it. You can tell that we are some folks who spend a lot of time outside with a lot of young people or members of the community, and we all have this experience of like the aha moment. I think, April, you mentioned is it the Sila moments? But I think, yeah, those are just moments in nature, right? And what I'm hearing too is a lot of y'all saying sometimes it's a really little experience, right? Whether it's a bug or looking up and seeing the stars. And I think, in terms of what we do at Austin Youth Riverwatch, because of who we do serve, I think oftentimes we do kind of try and challenge the narrative that nature occurs only in wide open spaces, right? Because of course it's beautiful and we want to take our students to state parks and, gorgeous ranches and these big open areas. But I think also it's really important to teach our young people that nature occurs in your own backyard, or it occurs in the greenbelt by your apartment complex. It is in the trees outside your school. And so, unfortunately, most of the misuse that happens in nature often comes from those areas that are close to us. And so in order to establish kind of this conservation ethic, or the proper stewardship of natural resources, which I think is something we all kind of aspire to do, right? We have to work with the young people in the places that are nearest and dearest to their own homes. And so again, that's something that we spend a lot of time in, and it might not be necessarily a nature immersion experience, but I do think it has the ability to be just as powerful when we are going to, say, an urban greenbelt and spending time with kids, collecting macroinvertebrates, or doing fish sampling or water quality testing. I do believe that those experiences can be just as powerful, and then are able to kind of serve as a vehicle to translate those skills into something more. So yeah, that's just a thought.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you for all of those really thoughtful responses. I agree. You all clearly work with kids in nature, and that is very inspiring and positive. And it's good to hear kind of how some of those experiences transcend which organization you're working with, that, like you said, the aha moments really connect everybody. My next question is going to go for you, April. I mentioned earlier, we kind of went back and forth about how Bamberger Ranch is well known for working with local landowners in more rural environments surrounding the ranch itself, which is out near Blanco. Over the years, Hill Country Alliance has been lucky to work with you to convene landowners around the Panelists to help encourage healthy stewardship practices. And we all know that you are very incredible conveners. And the Bamberger Ranch has been a great model for Hill Country stewardship that impacts both the land and its neighbors. So how do you coordinate with rural local landowners to build up that ethic of land stewardship? Maybe if you're not reaching them when they're a kid.
Yes. Thank you for that question. One of the most, there's several elements that I'd like to comment on. First of all, we have a really, really inspiring story. It's extraordinarily inspiring to think about one person's vision making a really big difference. And so we talk a lot about how J. David Bamberger had this vision and a lot of gumption and determination, and really built something that helps the community, the broader community. And that's a really great story. And so we share that a lot. We also have the power. I'm a strong believer in grassroots conservation. And so we have Jay David's story as part of our story of grassroots conservation. And we also have these amazing groups like the Panelists Watershed Landowners Group, which is a group of people that come together and share information and share resources on land stewardship and even just support, just emotional support for each other in their journey of careful land stewardship. And so we really try to encourage that kind of community-based collaboration. We try to be good neighbors to spread that story and message of community-based collaboration. And we really try to be a good citizen that provides some guidance when people need it in terms of questions about their own land stewardship activities. And so we really, it's an intentional way of reaching out and trying to build community. Other people on the panel this morning have talked about community and how important that is, and we are very much believers in that as well.
Okay, so kind of moving a bit from there to building community online, switching into how this year has gone. As we all know, 2020 has been many things, and a lot of our organizations, all of our organizations in some way, have had to adapt how we've switched our communication strategies. So Amelia, I have actually followed Austin Youth Riverwatch throughout the past year on social media, and I gotta say I am very impressed by y'all's social media spotlights and just general interactions. So can you tell us about your outreach efforts to the public and your river watchers, and how those have adapted in COVID times and in everything else that has happened in 2020?
Oh, definitely. Oh man, y'all know it has been a struggle, right? As we are traditionally outside every day working in person with students, and that hasn't been able to happen since March, essentially. And so I guess I can touch on your question, I suppose, first by addressing what we're doing with students in order to keep them active and engaged and still doing some form of hands-on learning. So with remote programming, we noticed that we were getting the best, I would say, level of engagement, and also the students reported the most satisfaction and enjoyment, and we saw better learning outcomes in our data when we were able to physically ship them something that they could do at home. So for example, this semester, we shipped off like almost 1,000 pounds of dirt and seeds for native grasses that they can will be growing together. And so what it looks like is a staff educator paired with a group of online students, and then step by step explaining what it is that their materials are that they have that we've physically dropped off at their homes, and then going through the steps to essentially complete an activity. Or to engage in a game, or if we are asking them to collect data for us safely, how they can get outside. iNaturalist has been huge. I'm sure you guys are all familiar, but that's been really great for data collection, and also just getting engaged in nature photography too, and learning a little bit more about species ID. We use a lot of online databases too. The City of Austin's Watershed Protection Department has some really good environmental integrity index data that we'll use to have the kids start to learn, oh, this is my own watershed. Here's how I can interpret and analyze this information, and then even create a restoration project from there. So I hope that covers, that's the section of what we're doing with students as we enter this weird virtual space, right? As we're trying to still engage with students, doing the hands-on work and getting them outside, and yet through a completely different modality. And then with regards to social media, so how we engage with the public, right? I imagine that a lot of you guys have the same challenge. we do so much, and it's hard to convey what we're doing all the time to the public, to funders, to, you know, supporters and people who just want to be involved with us. So I will definitely have to tap my hat off to our program and administrative coordinator, Emma. She's been really good about developing schedules for this is what needs to go out. Here's how we stay in touch with people. And I think a really big part of her campaign for social media is in utilizing our senior highlights. So we have a lot of students that will graduate throughout the course of the year. We love to brag about our graduation rates because all of our students do graduate from high school, which is huge for us, especially working with such a big population from Title I schools. And so she's really put a lot of time and effort into rethinking layout and design. So looking at graphic design, looking at, you know, what is something that's kind of trendy right now? What are really appealing and fun kind of graphics and whatnot? And how can she pair it with that? And just also, of course, individual students telling folks what they're studying, telling the success story of, say, Maria with a scholarship to UT and what she's doing. I think that really connects with folks, is just getting the individual story out.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys, I mean, it sounds really awesome that you have been able to kind of capture that connection, even remotely. Justine, a quick one for you. I know you explained a little bit how camp at El Ranchito goes usually, and this summer, for the first time in its history, you all transitioned from a month of hardcore, total nature immersion, camping, living in tents with no running water, to going online for summer camp. What advice or lessons learned would you like to share with someone watching this panel, given that experience you had?
Yeah, the first thing that we did, you know, after doing a lot of thinking and researching about what would be best to adapt, was calling all of our families and asking, what technology do you have at home? So when we were determining what we would use, and with such an age range that we have, kids had a really big range of technology that they had at home. So learning what families had access to, we did take out some laptops on loan from the Austin Public Library that we were able to share with families. So creating our programming based on what we knew families had access to as far as technology. And yeah, one of the first things that we came up with was how to get physical objects from camp and activities that we wanted to do to campers. So we did a curbside, so similar to what Amelia was describing, and giving, we had soil, seeds, plants, arts and crafts supplies, bird seed to make bird feeders. And then another really central aspect about our camp is our outdoor kitchen and fresh and healthy eating. So we created meal kits with some favorite camp ingredients, and our camp cook, Chef Addie, did some online demos so that campers and families could cook from home. So that was kind of an unexpected outcome, was the families being involved, just mentioning that. So whether it be cooking, for sure, families involved, and then also some of the other activity, we would even do a evening program with a little bit of singing and some talent shows, so families could be involved in that way. You asked advice. Keeping it simple was a great approach. I said this, like, technology is kind of like the weather. You can have the best laid out plans, and then something technological happens and it shifts a little bit. You know, anyone's internet can go down. So when you're really just having the person interaction be the center of what you're doing, then you're relying less on a lot of different pieces of technology to work. And then just keeping the message, keeping the mission in mind. We got a lot of response from our campers that they did feel less stress because they spent time in their backyards, and we spent more time in our own backyards. We were all running camp from our living rooms, and it was such a inspiring and energizing project to work on in the month of June, when life just still seemed, we're all still figuring out what the pandemic looked like. It was something so positive to be a part of. So even myself walking outside to sit under a tree when we were given that direction by a counselor, going on a scavenger hunt, kids going on their apartment balcony and planting some seeds. So keeping it simple, keeping it close to mission, and keeping it relationship and community centered would be my advice. And then also making sure everyone has access to what you're creating.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up now. It feels like all the work you all are doing is some of the most compelling when it comes to creating pathways for children and adults to follow to a fully fledged conservation ethic. While I am guilty of often calling this pathway a pipeline, I think a more fitting name is trail. So in terms of creating a trail for conservationists of all ages to follow, whether it starts in elementary school at Nature Discovery Camp or with adults learning stewardship tactics at Bamberger Ranch, it's clear that these programs hope to create pathways for someone to get inspired and then to become an active champion for natural resources throughout their life. So on that note, can you all go through and try to share a brief story or any takeaways where you've seen that to be the case in your work?
I know that here at Sela Bamberger Ranch Preserve, we've had a number of school children who are now, who report back to us and who are now studying natural resources management at wonderful places like Texas A&M University. And so we get feedback like that people say, you know what, we remember going to Sela when we were in grade school, and now we're, you know, focusing on a career in natural resources management. And so we definitely have had that quite often. So it's really fun to see.
Yeah, I think I'll kind of piggyback off of that, because that's totally, I think, what fully encapsulates these moments that, you know, we all are so eager to see, and that are so rewarding when you do see the progression. And I know, I'm sure it's in all of your guys' organizations as well, but when you have a student that's been with you for years and years, and you remember everything from that first camping trip, and you showing them how to set up a tent and how to, like, you know, work their sleeping bag and the gear and all the things, those first hikes, and, you know, discovering a new species to them. And then, you know, flash forward 4 years, and you're writing a letter of recommendation for college. And then you see them, you know, go on and study wildlife management at Texas A&M. You know, there's so many of those. And I think I'm thinking of just, you know, in my time when I started off with El Ranchito, Justine and Leah, with the Gulf Coast Expedition, one of those students recently told me that he was applying for a position with the EPA, and he was looking for a letter of recommendation as well, and he got the position. And so I think that really, to me, is showcasing that success that you do see, the progression over time of these young people and where they end up.
Jump in next. Oh, there we go. Okay. Internet's a little spotty, so sorry. Yeah, I think for us, what's been illuminating for the outdoor school is we're very, you know, because we're bringing out whole grade levels to our property. And obviously we weren't able to do that this past spring. And so I think what's been really, really powerful is to see how school leaders are really engaged in this work. We've worked with a few school leaders who were just like, oh man, I got this opportunity to come to the property. It was my first time. I'd never done anything outdoors. And then to see them now, literally during the midst of our global health crisis, I spoke with one school leader who was like, if even we can just get our kids to your property for 3 hours, like I will move heaven and earth to get our kids there, just because of all the benefits that come with them going out there. And in my head, I'm like, well, you know, it's like a 2-hour drive to our property from, you know, the city. So I think that just speaks to volumes to how, like, on the school leader side and the teacher side, they're seeing some of the powerful connections that can happen, and it's playing out back at their home campuses, which is what we hope for. You know, that's what kind of ties back to our mission of cultivating wholeness. It's about connecting kids to the outdoors, but it's like a deeper piece of like the holistic view of what nature can do, and we see that happen on the teacher level too, with kids. So that's really, really powerful.
With us, it's still so fairly new. You know, we've only been together couple of years, but just watching it through my granddaughter, and then the returning families that are continuing to come back and watch those kids grow. And then, you know, I've had a couple who've told me stories now where they've gone camping and they've gone hiking. And so just seeing them take what we kind of started and kind of continuing that, and just for them to kind of return, and then seeing them in turn help others along the way, you know, how to build a tent or chip in, or just comes easier for them. It's just kind of nice to see for us. So.
I agree so much. And I think seeing campers and staff really bring nature immersion, you know, however that looks for them, whatever their kind of avenue of interest is, it becomes part of their identity. So pursuing a career in natural resources, or, you know, I think of a staff member, Edgar, who is camper and staff. He is studying social work, and that's his path. And he's bringing into his social work degree an element of ecotherapy because of his love of nature. So that's how he's expanded. And this summer he told me a story he put out on social media to his personal network. Hey, I'm going kayaking. Does anyone want to come? And it ended up bringing, because it was on social media, this really big swath of people from his life. And he'd spend a couple hours out kayaking Town Lake with them. And he was telling me about some of the conversations that he was having. And I was like, dude, you're practicing ecotherapy right now. Like that's just really neat. So I see that play out with so many campers, and it's amazing to connect those stories from the 4th grade all the way on. Yes.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for taking this time. I am personally feeling very inspired. I'm sad we didn't have time for like a live question and answer since this is recorded content, but we will have an opportunity for folks that are tuning into this to reach out to you through email addresses that we'll have listed on our website. So if folks have questions and want to reach out, by all means, our panelists are experts, and we'd love to help put you in touch with them.
Thank you so much, Leah, for organizing.
Definitely. And thank you all for attending, and thanks to everybody that's tuning in. I hope everybody gets to enjoy the rest of the summit this week.